Welcome to a CNBC Africa panel special on the fast-changing face of the internet. As always, my name is Arnold Kwizera, coming to you from our studios in Kigali, Rwanda. Now, if you want to be part of this conversation, you can tweet us at CNBC Africa, or you could tag me directly at The Real Kwizera. Now, just to give you a little bit of context, well, the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the internet age or sector more than any other. Now, with the need of the sector no longer seen as a luxury, but rather a means to an end. But with that comes so many challenges. So can internet service providers keep up with these demands, and what are those new demands? Now, to answer these questions, we have a panel of experts for you here today. Allow me to introduce this panel. We have Mr. Carlos Mwizerwa. He's the General Manager of Invictus Security Interests. We have Mr. Christian Muhira. He is the CEO of Broadband Systems Corporation Limited. And Mr. Steve Kinutia. He's the East African Regional Manager for Vodacom Mezzanine. Thank you for making the time, gentlemen, for this rather timely discussion. And, I just want us to start with you, Mr. Carlos Mwizerwa. That first question, can people in the industry keep up with these demands?
We are trying really hard. And it's good that you've assembled a very good team here. Everything is going online because of the effects of COVID-19. People are working remotely and sometimes in traffic jam. So the demands for connectivity and the demands for securing those conversations is really growing. I am pleased to say that we are trying to keep pace with the growing demand and the changes.
I want to bring you into the conversation, Christian. You've heard what Carlos says there. You as an ISPS provider, are you able to keep up with these demands?
Thank you, Arnold. Yes, it's been an evolving sector, given that the demands from the client keep on evolving. So if I were to mention a few, there is high throughput that is required across the board. Mobility is very key in this age. People want to be and stay connected, and in that angle as well as stay secured. So yes, it's I believe that it's something we are meeting together with other sector, and in particular as BAC in Rwanda and across the region. It's something that will continue to grow, so that will require lots of investment as we go on. So in a nutshell, yes, it's something we're able to do and keeping satisfying the client's demand.
And just before we get into specifics there, Stephen, bringing you into the conversation, when you look at the Kenyan market what have been the demands, and has a company like Vodacom Mezzanine been able to keep up with those?
Absolutely, and thank you very much, Arnold. Of course, the demand has actually tremendously grown because of the COVID situation, like my fellow speakers mentioned earlier. But what has also been interesting is from a telco perspective, we've also seen demand from our consumers, and they want us to push the boundaries in terms of the services that we are offering. So if you look at our traditional services that include data, that include SMS, that include USSD and hosting, they're saying, no, what else can you do with that? So we've been able to deliver a lot of products that, of course, are helping us push the boundaries and automate a lot of the industries that before traditionally were not seen as digital. And for example, in agriculture, health, and education.
So Stephen, how much change has happened over the past 18 months when it comes to what your consumers or prospects are looking for?
Thank you. So just writing on from my previous point, I give you a very good example today. Some of our customers, let's say like agriculture, farmer-based organizations like cooperatives, we've seen them trying to automate their solutions. So traditionally, for example, if you look at like a small cooperative somewhere in the village, they would work with farmers collect produce such as milk, be able to keep their records manually, maybe also send farmers information or note the information in a manual way, maybe let's say like in a card or in a booklet and such. But again, they've pushed us to the boundaries where we are saying, okay, fine, how do we automate this? So instead of having the records manually written in a card or in a booklet, we are able to actually send this via an SMS and cumulatively keep the records for farmers where they can refer to these records in a very easy way, unlike what they've done for us. And that's, again, an example. And again, with the use of mobile, we are able to reach what we call the last mile. So this is, again, areas that you'd never have thought about that automation would ever occur. And by the last mile, I'm talking about a guy who's in the middle of the village interacting with the farmer. That data is captured, saved in the cloud, on the cloud, and it can be it is accessible from an office setting. So you see such organizations, again, that were not traditionally digitized. They're able to get that information. They're able to use that information in a good way for whether it is for policy advocacy, whether it is to improve the farmer lives, such as with financial details that farmers can get loans, and as, of course, again, for reporting purposes that probably took a very long time. This is easily automated. So again, that's an example of we're pushing the boundaries, and over the last 18 months, some of the things we've been able to achieve were probably unfathomable before COVID.
And there, it's interesting you bring in that last mile connectivity, and I'll come back to you there a little bit later on. I just want to bring Christian back into this conversation. And Christian, I just want you, to help us define and give us a context of the Rwandan market. How much has changed when you look back to March last year to now in terms of, your role as internet service providers?
As an internet service provider, or as an industry in general, we've seen improved quality where it wasn't. So over the past year, we've had quite a number of our clients, or demand has created new clients. So we've seen new homes getting connected. We've seen, as Stephen said, we've seen rural areas getting on board as well. So we are talking schools that are connected distances away from the usual centers that we go to usually. So I want to bring to this conversation that in terms of acquiring and getting the client always on, we've had to now improve on our quality in terms of the service we provide. We've had to improve on our coverage in terms of now getting everyone connected. I'll give you an example. In Rwanda, we've got 95% coverage, 4G coverage of all the population in the country. So this has tremendously, given the change induced by COVID, has had a high impact in terms of number of connected users now. So given that we are very focused on enterprise and government, we are bringing on board now, we are bringing schools, we are bringing health centers, all these different sectors that are undergoing a digital journey now to automate or to provide services remotely.
Interesting that you bring up that 95% 4G coverage in Rwanda, Christian. And, just this yesterday, Apple made an announcement where they say they may bypass 4G and 5G and just go ahead and create their next software, or next phones will have software that links directly to satellites. And that would be an interesting development regarding the trends. And I think we'll cover that towards the end of this conversation. So something for you to think about there. I want to bring Carlos back into the conversation. Carlos, you've had 95% coverage in Rwanda. Rwanda is one of the markets Invictus is involved in as a company. But there are things about what you provide that previously used to be seen as luxuries. And here I'm talking about something like cybersecurity, right? Previously, this was seen to be to belong to what are termed as the bigger companies, the blue chips and the likes. So is it still a luxury for companies to care for their cybersecurity, going by the changes that have happened since the pandemic?
Thank you. I think as both Christian and Steve have talked about, the penetration of internet or the ISPs have really gone very far to bring more people on board. What does this mean? This means there's a lot of data that is crisscrossing these networks. That means you have people who are not previously visible on the data highway, you have vast amounts of data traversing these highways, if you like. Now, there's a lot of risk in what is going on out there. And I think from the feedback we are getting from business, 68% of business leaders now realize that they need to focus on cybersecurity, and they are allocating a lot of their budget now towards that cybersecurity. Now, remember, as both gentlemen have mentioned, people have started working remotely or away from the traditional sphere of the business premise, which would be the office. And that means that now they have to go a little bit out of that zone to secure these people from wherever they're working. We know that about almost every 5 seconds, someone is attempting to hack someone somewhere across the world. And that means that now that more people are getting involved working remotely, the rewards are much higher. A lot of data is being aggregated in one place. You have banking transactions being done from many different places. The gentlemen have talked about advancements in connectivity. And that means when things like 4G, 5G come, or even if Apple goes direct to the satellite, you still have many vulnerabilities along the information highway. So it's no longer a luxury. Actually, I think it should be viewed as a standard. And what we recommend to some of our clients is that they need to devote between 5 to 20% of the IT budget to cybersecurity.
Interesting figure that you put there, 25%. Carlos, if I may ask, why 25%?
When you look at it, depending on the size of the company or the number of users you have, you're talking about, let's not look at how much it costs for you to invest. Let's look at the cost of the crime itself. Cybercrime, it's $1 trillion industry. And a lot of the costs go into recovery. You have damage to infrastructure. You have business downtime. On average, you lose about 50 days of productivity when you're trying to resolve an attack. So in this sense, we say, look at the value of the infrastructure you have. Look at the cost to your business should you go down. And we say between 5 to 20%, 25% is what you should be focusing on, just to ensure that you have business continuity.
I want to bring Christian back into this conversation, and Stephen, feel free to jump in straight after Christian. Carlos has, set this ball rolling for us. He has put a figure to it, because my next question was regarding the costs, and the cost has changed over the past 1.5 years. 25% to every firm's budget. Stephen, you were talking about last mile connectivity. How many of these people or companies are able to think 25% in terms of numbers? So Christian, 25%, is that the figure we should be working with?
A figure to me has to have a context, and I agree with Carlos that in this day and age, the loss that one potentially exposes themselves to when they are connected can be as well measured into huge amounts of dollars. So in this case, if you want to overcome those risks, you have to invest. So I'll to give you an example here in our market, we've come up with a product that we call it Net Shield. So we get into a client's network, given that we are their network provider. We add a protection layer in addition to now bringing the client are bringing them into understanding what cybersecurity is. So in this case, we conduct awareness campaigns. All this comes, yes, at a cost, but that is a cost that protects the client's digital asset, which is mainly data. So we are looking to provide the clients with an available network that is protected from the hackers that we all know are out there looking for vulnerabilities in our networks. In addition, now we provide this in a context that one addresses the regulations in the country, and in addition now that give them the peace of mind that allows them now to focus on their core business activities. So cost, yes, it's still there, but we are seeing this going down because the partners we are bringing on board, the technologies that is being brought up by the different vendors, getting cheaper by the day. So yes, cost is there, 25%. Yes, it's a number, but these are numbers that we can refine to the context of the particular market we are dealing with.
A very good point there regarding context and terms of flexibility. Stephen, context flexibility, that's what Carlos is talking about in terms of, that's what Christian is talking about in terms of fee. Carlos is giving us a figure, 25%. Do you have a figure?
I'm in agreement 100% with Carlos. The 25% is a very fair budget allocation for any organization that is taking cybersecurity seriously. But fine above that, that's actually just the monetary cost. If you look at the non-monetary cost, which downstream also obviously also turns into monetary, the brand management, if for example for organizations, if you take an example, if let's say a bank is hacked and information like that gets to the public, the brand reputation of that bank could be seriously eroded, and of course the loss in revenue accumulates highly. Then also there's the emotional cost of the end users. So again, sticking with my previous example, I talked about the citizenry level of our products reaching farmers, reaching citizens, whether it is in health, education, and or any other consumer level. Just the emotional damage that is or cost for an individual when their data is out there, that leads to a situation such as identity theft and so on. The cost, it's just, again, not monetary. This can be very damaging. So the onus goes on to organizations such as ourselves and playing in this space to ensure that this data is actually is well secured for our end users. Fine above that, the bigger corporations have the budgets and can allocate the 25%. And like Christian said, a lot of the internet service providers are taking responsibility to ensure that cybersecurity is optimal. But how about the other smaller organizations, SMEs that are even struggling to have that IT budget? So luckily, with a lot of organizations, again, like ourselves, from Mezzanine and Vodacom perspective, we're able to offer these solutions in what we call a managed service, as a managed service end to end. So whatever solution that is the customer is taking on, they can take it with security included. So that way, they don't have to have the high level of expertise that is required to ensure that cybersecurity is optimal at their organization.
Thank you. Very detailed there from you, Steve. Gentlemen, we are running out of time. 8 minutes only on the clock left for us. So I want us to cover as much ground as possible. But I want to bring Christian back into the conversation regarding future trends, right? You and Carlos are running two different businesses, but to an outsider, they may look very similar. So regarding the future of, let's say, an ISPS provider like yourself, or and a cybersecurity company like Invictus, do we see like such companies either merging or working more closely together, or are we going to continue in the medium of each being specialized?
The simple answer is that partnerships are the way to go. We cannot do everything by ourselves, right? So now that we are talking of partnership, Carlos here is my partner in this market, and we not only are doing secure connectivity, but we are also doing other future-proof and innovative solutions that allow our customers to be able to focus on their business core activities. So I'll get back to this. The future and the challenges we have here is that we need to always be not catching up with the client's requirements. We are talking different use cases. We are talking VR now becoming mainstream in different applications. I was recently looking at one of the innovative solutions for tourism that allows potential tourists to immerse themselves into what Rwanda has to offer, for instance, through VRs. So these are the evolutions of applications, the use cases that we are seeing that not only require that we pump in enough throughput to get the clients the quality of experience they expect, but as well as getting them to do that in a very secure way. As Steve mentioned, managed service is key to some of these sectors. He talked of SMEs. Yes, these might not have the budget required, but we are building our networks with security in mind to allow our clients the ease of now feeling or getting connected without worrying that their networks are exposed. So managed security is key, but partnerships brings in a very rich set of expertise that allow us now to provide our clients with a comprehensive set of services, security being at the center of it.
Carlos, I'm going to come to you shortly. I just want you to help us debunk what Christian just mentioned there regarding the partnerships and collaboration. Steve, bring you back into the conversation and probably in your closing remarks. When I look at what mezzanine solutions that you are able to provide, 800 million people across Africa, so that calls for some form of intermixing of the services that you're providing, that flexibility. What are the future trends looking like in your world?
The future trend is digitization. We will see more digitization across various industries. We will see a lot of organizations as well outsourcing a lot of these services. What Christian and Carlos are doing is quite impressive. You'll see a lot of customers saying, hey, look, instead of me doing this in-house, can I just work with 2 or 3 companies that understand what they're doing and get a packaged service to ensure that CEOs and CFOs and CIOs can sleep at night safely knowing that their data is safe. Then lastly, we must also be cognizant of the fact that remote working now is a reality and it is here to stay. From a different perspective, one of the biggest costs for organizations is real estate. The traditional organization wanted the best address in the city and so on. But now with COVID, we've seen that people have become more productive working from home. People have become more flexible in terms of how much they can deliver and how quickly they can turn around, how much they can be more efficient. So definitely, this is going to be here with us to stay. Our African culture calls for a little bit of more face-to-face interaction. So again, that also goes on to mobility. So you'll be able to see that your traditional day, you'll have out of the 5 meetings probably you have 1 or 2 will be face-to-face. You'll take them on the go. You'll need to deliver a document here and there. So again, the future is virtual and remote. Then lastly, sorry, just as I leave, it is important for us, again, from an African perspective, to ensure that also we standardize a lot of our policies to ensure that we prevent our citizenry data. So from an EU perspective, we've heard about what they call the General Data Protection Regulation, which is a standard that helps with securing citizenry data. And for the frustration, and you talked about the 800 million lives that, from a mezzanine perspective, we are touching, is if we look at every country we go, there is a different regulation for data. So some countries will allow you to host their data outside the country in a certain format, while you go on to just next door and the requirement is quite different, and so on. So to be able to deliver these services, I think it is important from an African perspective for us to have a policy that cuts across the region. Thank you.
And as we wind up this conversation, Carlos, just break it down for us regarding what you think the future is going to look like for players within the internet industry.
Thank you, Arnold. I think the future for us looks very interlinked. We will not be able to avoid each other. Stephen, Christian, and I will be forced to work together as we catch up with these trends and as we advise the end users on how to be more secure. One of the things I need to emphasize is that 95% of the breaches to security are actually caused by human intervention. So there's a lot of awareness and training that needs to go into that, even before we get into the hardware and software level.
Carlos, thank you very much. Gentlemen, we seem to have run out of time. Unfortunately, 30 minutes gone just like that. It has been an interesting conversation. I think we'll pick this up later on. Policy is one thing we need to talk about in the future. Steve brought that up in his closing remarks. Allow me to thank our panel of experts today on this topic on the fast changing face of the internet. Mr. Carlos Mwizerwa, he is the General Manager of Invictus Security Interests. We had Mr. Christian Muhira, he is the CEO Broadband Systems Corporation Limited, and Mr. Steve Kinuthia, he is the East African Regional Manager for Vodacom Mezzanine. As always, keep it CNBC Africa. You can tweet us at CNBC Africa, or you could tag me directly at The Real Quizera. Have a great rest of your day.